Okay, so let's make a start. We've got a few people still trickling in, but I think that's great. As you came in, you probably are aware that we will be recording this session. So that means that if you want to forward it on to a colleague or you're not able to stay for the whole session, you'll be able to catch up with it later. So yeah, please do share these. Our publisher forums are an opportunity for us to share with the community different developments that are happening at BioOne, share some more insights into publishing in general, and also to connect our community together. And today is one of those sessions where we'll be drawing on members of our community to talk about one of our exciting new features that we're launching, which is the introduction of video. So I'm going to start with a little overview of what we're going to be doing and introduce our speakers to you. We're going to talk about why video is exciting and share some of our favorites with you as we move through. Just going to check in. Okay, we still got a few more people coming in. That's wonderful. While we go through our sessions, feel free to use the chat and we will have the opportunity to do some Q&A at the end of the session. So please pop any questions that you have in there. I'm just looking in the chat now. Perfect. So like I said, our goal is to demystify video and to share with you how you can include videos in your content, both from an author's perspective and from an editor's perspective. And we're very, very grateful to have 3 speakers with us today who will share their experiences in using video. I'll introduce each of them as we come up to their sessions, but to begin with, I wanted to start with some of the reasons why you might like to include a video in your content. So you may want to document a behavior, a procedure, a biological process, a teaching technique, or to preserve a culture. And to begin with, I wanted to share an award-winning article from Zoological Science, which not only used video in its research, but incorporated this evidence in order to explain this phenomenon better. So in this particular article, the researcher was able to not only investigate, but then document that the D scales detach only through fluttering. I'm going to show you a little bit of this. It's quite quick. So as I said, this is a great example of how both the research and the output is using video. And I wanted to read a little extract from Zoological Science on it. So the detailed description of scale morphology using microscopies and videography contributes critically to understanding the characteristic scale detachment in the transparent wing. And thus this paper was awarded one of the 2022 Zoological Science Awards. So you may want to use videos in a number of different ways, and we're going to cover those today. One example would be the summary videos, video abstracts, explainer videos, which Aricia is going to speak to. But you may also want to embed videos within your articles, which we'll see a great example from Alex, and Debra will talk about that. And at the end, we'll go through with Maggie the differences between supplementary materials and embedding the videos and why that might be useful. Okay. So let's dive in. So I want to introduce our first speaker, Aricia Duate Benvenuto, who was one of our winners of the Ambassador Awards in 2022. One of the things that we really loved about this video is how it explains easily some quite difficult concepts and also an area of research that's perhaps a little difficult for people to understand or to engage with. So I'm going to show you a short piece. And one of the things I think is also really interesting to look at here is her use of captioning. So.
Herpes virus infection was detected in
So that is just a short message. Oh, okay. I will play that again really quickly as it looks like the sound went off there. I'm also going to pop the link into the chat for the full video and Aricia's wonderful write-up from the Ambassador Awards. And let me play that again.
Herpes virus infection was detected in 3 out of 6 animals. This is a virus known to be specific for each species and present ability to remain inactive in the host until some event that compromises the host immune status. Because the same herpes virus has already been recorded in other first seals stranded in Brazil, and based on this virus characteristic, we believe that first seals might be their natural host.
Okay, so without further ado, I'm going to hand over to our first speaker, and thank you so much, Aricia.
Hello. Do I share it?
Yes, please.
Okay. Can you see it? Oops.
Not yet.
Okay.
Perfect.
Okay.
Thank you.
So hello to all from all over the world. I'm from Brazil, so a little bit away from you. So basically, I'm very happy to be here and very honored to be invited to speak, to share a little bit of what I've learned in the process of the application to the BioOne Ambassador Award. So it's basically from scientists to filmmakers, we can all do it. So my name is Aricia, as Carol said. I am a veterinarian, so nothing related with design, technology, marketing, or anything like that. So no experience at all. And I am a PhD student here in Brazil, working mainly with the diseases on marine mammals, and one of the 5 winners of the BioOne Ambassador Award. So I always thought that it was very difficult to communicate my research, especially because I'm usually working with dead animals and diseases, which are not appealing at all or engaging to people. They're usually disgusted by it. So communicating my research can be very challenging. And the opportunity to apply for the BioOne Ambassador Award made me think like, okay, I want to do it and I want to do it as a video, but how can I do it? So my first reaction was like, how do I even start? Like, I've never done any videos before. So how do I create that? So in that process, I've learned kind of the main steps to it, and it makes easier for me to it made easier for me to understand and to do it, and to learn that everyone can do it. It's kind of very accessible for everyone now with the technology that we have on the internet. So basically the step-to-step that I saw is, first thing that you have to do is write your script. You have to elaborate on what you wanted to discuss and have that very clearly in your mind. Second step is do your video. So you have to do the visual content of it. It has to be linked with your script. And it could be animation, it could be shooting scenes like from your lab procedures or even in the field. So it doesn't matter, you just have to do the visual that goes with your script. Third step would be recording your audio. I like narrating of what I'm saying, like a storytelling, but there's people that don't like doing that, and that's okay. So you can do like a documentary, like just question and answers, or even just a background audio. So you just have to be like audio in the background to be more appealing to watch. So record, upload, and sync your audio to your video. After that, you have to put it all together and do your final touches. That could be like adding captions, that I think is very important, and showing that to reviewers. That could be like friends and everything. So you can just be adapting of what it's not working. So watch, rewatch, and do it all over again. So let's go to all those steps, to a few tips that I've learned. So writing your script. Your script is your guide. So it's like the main thing that you have to choose and you have to have on your mind. And you have to basically answer 3 questions to do so. So the first one is, what is the main goal of this video? Is it explaining your project? Is it sharing results? Is it correcting some misunderstanding towards a topic, which is very common on the internet nowadays? So that should be very clearly on your mind, because that's your goal. That's what you wanted to portray in that video. The second question is, what is your target audience? Like, to whom we're going to talk to? Is it colleagues? Is it laypersons? Is it kids? So you have to have that in mind in order to adapt your language to it, because otherwise people won't understand you. And remember to always be inclusive. That's very important. And the third question is, how long do I have to accomplish that? To have this goal and to talk to that target audience? Is it seconds? Is it minutes? And that usually depends on which platform are you using. If you're going to like put it on the YouTube, Instagram, or even like to publish in a paper. So how long do you have to do that? And depending on the length, you're going to have different approaches to it. So one example of how doing that is what I did in the BioOne Ambassador Award. Main goal of the video was answering how does your research impact the world by explaining one published paper to layperson language in 5 minutes. So based on that, I wrote it down my script. And like in the beginning, you're just going to like put everything that you want there, and then you go adjusting like, okay, no, this term is too scientifical. Let's explain more this, not cut that. So you're just going to have to be doing it a lot of times and reading a lot of times. And in the end, when it's kind of done, what I like doing it to see the length is reading it out loud and then timing it to see if it fits or not. And in that point, you have to cut or add things. So basically, like, it's the first step on what I want to do it, and this is how I'm going to do it. After that is kind of done, you go to the second step, that's making your video. And you can do it, like, as I said, a lot of different approaches. But what I like doing it is adding animation, photos, and videos. And I usually recommend this great platform that I use for my video, that it's called Canva. It's a website. You can have an account that it's free or pro. I would recommend the pro. It's very accessible. It's not expensive at all. Even for me in Brazil, the dollar is expensive. Like, Canva is very accessible, and it's very easy to learn how to use it. So basically, you just go create your account and you click on video, and there's a lot of different templates for you to choose. You can choose your template based on keywords, so it makes very easy for you to narrow down which path you want to go, and you can do it more animation, like engaging. You can do more serious. It depends basically on you. But as you're using a template, it's important for you to personalize your design, because otherwise it's going to be like the same as everyone else's. So to do that, you can change a little bit things like colors, the elements you're going to use. So you can choose your elements also with the keywords. So there's an example here of the word manatee. So there's graphic elements, that's pictures, that's videos, audios. So remember to just create your signature. And basically what you're going to do is you have your script, and each phrase can be a slide. So you just go creating and adding your slides based on the template, and then adding and cutting out the elements that you want, and just go like doing your thing and living like creating your own signature. So once it's done, you have to record your audio. And that step, it's like a little bit tricky, and I found that it was kind of like the hardest step of the way. So remember to always rehearse your script a lot of times. Like, I like narrating my script. So usually I'm just rehearsing, especially because English is it's not my first language. So for me, speaking in English is a little bit difficult, especially when I have to speak very like loud, in a huge phrase, for example. I like using different intonations to keep it interesting. So remember to be a storyteller. You want to engage people. So like the flat intonation, it's not very appealing. It's important to choose a quiet place to record. And you don't need any fancy equipment to do that. You can use your recording app on your phone. That's what I do. And you can do it all at once, or you can do just like phrases, and then you put that all together. Because once you're doing all at once, you can get it wrong like multiple times, but it depends on the length of your video. If you're talking 1 minute, you can do it all at once. 5 minutes, it's kind of a little bit tricky. So once you just like do it all over again, because you're going to be recording all over again. Once it's done, you just have to send it to your email, computer, overall. So the main thing is getting that recording audio in your computer and then uploading that on Canva. So it's very easy. There's like a place there to upload. Oh, I'm sorry, that's in Portuguese. And just put all the audio there, and then you just have to sync it, which is very easy with your slides. And then you just can you can roll your slide to be more, to adapt to what you're talking. So you just go there and then just choose like the length of your slide. So it's kind of very easy to do the syncing, but it's a little bit tricky. So you have to do it like, it's a time consuming thing, but it's very fun. After that, once it's all done, you just have to see if it's all together. So if it's the visual content and the audio must be very in sync. It's very important for the audio to be very clear. And I like adding captions in the end. Like, it's very important for inclusive reasons. And for me, even like once I'm reading something in other language, it's easier to read than to hear sometimes. So adding captions, it's essential. And I like adding also a background music very, very low, not like in a compromising my audio, but to be like something in the background to be more appealing as well. And I like showing that to reviewers. Usually I choose like my mom and like colleague, so they can both see like both aspects of it. Like my mom is going to see if it's like she can understand it, and the colleague if I didn't do like an oversimplification of scientific terms. So it's just like your final touches. In the end, you just download it. It's very easy as well on Canva, and usually I recommend doing on MP4, so very easy as well, and it's all done. So very easy to do it, very approachable, very accessible, and I think it's a very good way on communicating a research for even colleagues, even like people like all over the world, and people that have no idea what you're doing. So it's an important way to share your research and to show the people what you're doing. It's important. So thank you for your attention. And if you ever want like help with video or even science, my email is there. So thank you all.
Thank you so much, Aricia. The comments in the chat saying you're making it look very, very easy. And it's wonderful. Canva is such a versatile tool. One of the things you were speaking about was adjusting the language. And is there anything additional that you would recommend for that? I mean, you talked about having your mom as a layperson do it and colleagues do it to review it. Any other tips that you can give for that, for adjusting the language for different audiences?
Yeah, it's very difficult, because usually we're so into our like scientific terms that usually a term for me that it's very pathological and it's very common for people that even are vets but are not pathologists. It's very like, what you're talking about. So usually sharing with people, like not even just my mom, but my mom knows kind of what I do, but my supervisor or even a friend that it's a vet, but she doesn't work, like sharing and having reviews, it's very important. And usually just read it out, like, okay, what is this term? And can I change it? Like anthropogenic, is it too hard? So maybe just human related. So that's one example of BioOne Investor, my video. So I think it's all a matter of you're writing it down and reading a lot and sharing with people and hearing them and hear their feedbacks and to learn how to do it.
And how did you go about adding the captions? Because like you said, that's very important for accessibility, and a lot of us watch videos with the sound off.
How did I did it? It must be an easier way of doing it that I did. Like I did it on Canva, and I went like slide through slide and adding it as a text. But I don't know, I saw there's a lot of apps doing it, but as my English is not as very clear, and I'm from Brazil, so the apps that I saw here only recognized Portuguese. So I was like, okay, but I need the one in English, and my English is not perfect, so maybe it's not understanding. So like for me, it was kind of a manual thing, but I'm pretty sure there's lots of apps or websites that do that for free nowadays. But I don't know, like for me, it was kind of like doing the manual, like each slide, adding the sentence and choosing like the everything, like the color and everything. But I think it worked out.
It absolutely did, and it's really interesting. And then I wanted to ask you one last thing, because you mentioned that now people are coming to you for advice on how to do videos. So do you see this growing within your field?
Yes, I kind of fell in love with it, working with videos. I think it's very, and the feedbacks that I got, it was very positive. Not even from my family. My family is like, okay, I understand now what you're doing. So it was very fun for that, and lots of options and lots of opportunities became like, I'm working with the WDA Latin American section, and I was invited to be part of the board, and now I'm responsible for the social media. So there's a lot of opportunities that are coming around because of it, and I love doing it. Like science communication for me, like I fell in love with it. I think it's very important, even like for us as researchers, but for me, as I love, like, conservation is so important right now. And so I don't know, I've been playing around, and let's see what it leads me to in the future. If it's like everyone like, do your YouTube channel, I'm like, I'm not sure that yet, but maybe in the future I'll be open-minded about it.
That's so good. Thank you so much for sharing, Aricia. So if anyone has additional questions, feel free to drop them in the Q&A. We will have some time at the end. Thank you so much. So let me move on to our next speaker. So Dr. Debra Bourne is the editor-in-chief of the Journal of Wildlife Diseases, and nominated Aricia for the Ambassador Awards. And we wanted to introduce her with a great example from one of their articles that looks at documenting behaviors and an approach to how this was done. I'm going to drop the link to the article in the chat as well. And let me show you. It may be the cutest video that you watched today before I hand over to her. So yeah, this is a wonderful example, and with these videos, some of them are embedded within the article, as you will hopefully be able to see. So I'm going to hand you over to Dr. Debra Bourne, who's going to talk to you about this project, one of the pilots, and why the Society was so excited by the prospect of video, and Aricia's in particular is a good example of that. Debra, are you ready?
Yeah, can you put me on video, please? Someone.
I can. Oh, yes, sir. You should have a prompt.
Yeah.
There we go. Okay, I'm going to duck out.
Thank you. Let's just remind myself how to share screen. Yeah. Okay, is that coming through yet?
It is. Thank you.
Great. So I'm mostly going to be talking today about something that actually happened before I started as the editor of Journal of Wildlife Diseases. As has already been spoken a little bit about, the uses of video, why use it? It can improve your communication, it can expand the number of people you can communicate with, and it also teaches you alternative ways of presenting information, which I find quite exciting. As we've just been shown, there's increasing use now of videos within publications. And I think this is increasing both because people find it easier to record because they've got phones with them with video apps on all over the place. And also because memory is relatively cheap nowadays and internet speeds are quite high. So it's practical to embed or link from an online article or from the supplementary materials, and to provide people with a video. You can demonstrate behaviors, you can demonstrate techniques. There are some things that are easier for people to see with a photograph or with a diagram, but there are also things that are easier, as we were just shown, to see with video. And yeah, Again, this is a little bit from the same video on the mountain lions that you were seeing before. And the reason these behaviors were being taught was because they were seeing if these pumas could be infected by chronic wasting disease in deer, and they needed to know whether they were showing the first subtle signs of behavioral changes from that. So end of 2017, 2018, JWD ran a pilot project. One of the Wildlife Disease Association members, Stuart Patterson, who works at the Royal Veterinary College in London, UK, he was running this. And together with the then executive manager, Dave Jessup, they contacted authors of articles that had recently been published. They asked them if they would be interested, and about 20 or 25% indicated they would be interested in maybe making a video abstract. And in the end, 6 of these videos were made, and they were given an approximate idea of what they should do, instructions, guidelines, length. They were encouraged to use whatever institutional support they had. If there was a university, there might be a publicity department that could help them. And then the videos were sent to WDA, an initial title and author information was added, and these are presently available, linked from the WDA website under resources, Meet Scientists. And here's just a few of the ones that are available. And the top blue link for each one links to the video, and then the bottom one links to the abstract of the article. So these were the guidelines, and I've just bolded a couple of things for you to think about, the bit about the average view time, and thinking about the video both as a tool to promote your paper and spreading the message of your research, and think about the video as a brief conference presentation, similar to that. So one of the things that was learned in making these videos was the importance of keeping it short. So the average person going to WDA's YouTube channel will watch for about 1 minute 30 seconds. So there's no point in giving a 5-minute video abstract because only the first 90 seconds are going to get watched. Another thing is that watching these and watching other people's videos, it's really clear that not everyone is comfortable talking to the camera. Some people are really quite comfortable with it, others aren't. And one of the important things to go with that is that speaking to camera is not the only way to get a video over. Aricia already showed us about use of animation. Other things that you can use are videos of your study species, nice views from the field, people doing things in the field, doing laboratory techniques, etc. The importance of good audio voice. The voiceover has to be really clear. If there is any music, it has to be in the background. And then one of the really interesting things, of course, is that is the importance of captioning. So when these were done, we didn't really know about the importance of captioning. So these are without captions. So that one then carries on and tells you a really nice story, and it uses a combination of different to get that over. But something like 85% of people watch online videos with the sound off. So captioning, it's turned out, is really, really, really important. And we didn't know that even just a few years ago. The other thing is that you can't use the same bit of video very well, both to promote your paper and spread the message. they're actually two different things, and you need to decide what is it you're trying to do with this video and do that, not try and do two different things for two different audiences and make it not actually useful for either of those audiences. There was also concern that people would watch the video instead of reading the article, and that doesn't happen. They're really different things, and a video is not a replacement for a written published article, but it can lead people to be interested and want to go and read that article. It's also, whatever your audience is, if you're enthusiastic and engaging, then your passion will shine through, and that in itself makes the video more interesting for the person watching it. Because of the time limit, you've got to keep it to essentials. And if you're talking to the public, you've really got to be creative about drawing them in. Practicalities. Who owns the video? Is it going to be the author? Is it going to be the journal? You've got to make sure that no one's going to be unhappy about how it's being used. You've got to make sure it's properly credited. What I'm finding interesting here is if you look beneath this picture, it's telling you on YouTube that this is from a medical journal. It's not just something that someone Joe Blogs has made who doesn't understand the topic. And it's also giving you a little bit of information there about the video. Looking to the future, it's important both to realize the advantages of video and also the limitations. There are resources available. It happens that in the July issue of the Journal of Wildlife Diseases, we did a book review on presenting science concisely by Bruce Kershaw with John Wagner as the illustrator. And that book takes you through lots of different lengths of presentation. And some of the lessons that are in that book could be really useful if you're starting out on video and thinking about, well, I've only got 3 minutes or I've only got 90 seconds. How much information can I get across? And Aricia has given an excellent example of the fact that nowadays there's user-friendly video software available online that anyone can learn to use. I remember just a few years ago, 5-6 years ago, maybe, I was doing a journalism course. I had to do a video. I started off with like 40 minutes of interviewing someone, had to get it down to 90 seconds. And I had to use really expensive videoing software that I didn't have access to afterwards and wasn't going to be able to do anything else with that video afterwards. And now it's totally different. You've got things like Canva and other applications. You can go online, find the top 5 video applications for this year and different options and decide what to do with it. So we want to continue allowing people to link video from articles, and I suspect that's going to increase. We want to encourage more people to think about doing video abstracts. What we're probably going to do is on the submission form for people's articles, we'll need to add a tick box for authors to indicate that they're interested in doing this, and then we can provide them with more information. But people are going to have different levels at which they're happy to do this. So the younger generation, perhaps, who are growing up with Instagram and YouTube and stuff, are more likely to be used to the whole idea of doing video blogs and things, and they might be really quite comfortable with it. Other people might go, well, you know, I don't even know where to start. So you need to think about whether you can provide tutorials at different levels for different people, or to point people to where those resources exist online that they can go to. And you need to provide really clear guidelines. And yeah, as I said, the level at which you need to start training people can be really quite basic. Which way around should I be holding my phone? How to get XKCD cartoon in there somewhere.
Love it.
This is just to show you past versus future. So please bear with me. This is what an old style science video used to be like.
Will you be able to share some of these links in the chat, Deborah? Some of the sound is a little low.
Okay, I'll add that. Yeah. And then this one, and I'll tell you something interesting about this after I've played the.
There is a hole.
So he's saying there's a hole at the bottom of maths. There are always going to be true statements that cannot be proven. Now, one thing I'm finding interesting is that the link doesn't show. Hold on. Whoa. Let's try again. Let's see if I can get to the next slide. Nope. Okay. So on the actual one online, it's got complete captioning. And so on the online video, if you've got if you're watching that video, it's got captioning, so you can have it with the sound off and it still all comes through. But for some reason that doesn't come through when you capture it into a PowerPoint like this. And that's it really. I just want to thank everyone who helped me in developing this, particularly our new communications officer, Lindell White, who knows a lot more about social media side and stuff than I do, and showed me where those videos were to look at. Stuart Passon, who, as I say, was in charge of the pilot project, Aricia, and all the JWD authors whose images and videos appeared here. BioOne for asking me to talk, and thank you all for coming and listening.
Thank you so much, Debra. Please put any questions you might have in the chat. I would like to make sure that everyone gets through. And if you don't mind, Debra, popping some of those links in, those YouTube videos looked really good. And I think it's really important to build on what Aricia was saying about your audience and knowing your audience, and it's so important why it can't be a one-size-fits-all approach. One of the things that I think we'd spoken about before was the importance of perhaps not necessarily creating videos, but for researchers to be able to explain their research to the wider public. So hopefully that's something we can explore a little bit in the Q&A afterwards. So as Debra was saying, in this article, we have the videos embedded within it, but then she's also focusing on some of the video abstracts or the summaries. We really wanted to show you, a great example of how videos can be incorporated within the article. And so I'm really happy that Alex is able to join us today. His article is one of the first that we converted in the BioOne video pilot project. And it's a really great example of how including the videos within the text helps tell a narrative. I'm going to pop the link to that into the chat and hand over to him if you are ready, Alex.
Sure, yep.
Wonderful. I'm going to step back and stop sharing. I'm going to give you a prompt to turn on your camera because it looks like...
there we go. I got it.
There we are. Perfect.
Okay, yeah, let me just put this into presenter
Perfect.
mode here for everyone. Is
Such a
that,
good
can you see
point.
that?
We can. Yep. Thank you so much.
Okay, yeah, you bet. Thank you. So as Carol mentioned, so our research used videos to highlight some of our findings. They are not produced video clips, right? These are just a video and footage captured by an independent researcher. So we documented this social behaviors in these marine turtles, and this video and having them embedded in the article really helped portray our findings, and that's what I'm going to talk to you about. So just a real quick and brief context is that kind of the ongoing paradigm for marine turtles is that they're solitary species, so they don't interact with one another unless it's for mating, so copulating or courting. And so what we had is an independent researcher. His name's Don McLeish. That's him up in the top left, in Western Maui. This is in the Hawaiian Islands in the U.S. And what he has, there's these 4 resident hawksbill turtles that live right in front of where he lives. So he's just an independent researcher. He's not a trained scientist, but he had this footage of these turtles in front of his home that he'd been collecting for multiple years, and showing that there was actually some interactions happening between them. And when I saw these videos, I was like, wow, this is great, Don. We need to do something with this. And so that's what we ended up doing. We ended up kind of categorizing the behaviors they were demonstrating. And it was really, pretty groundbreaking. I'll be honest, and the study itself isn't really hardcore research. It's more exposing these new behaviors to the scientific world, and then opening it up for researchers to do things. But it did kind of break things open as far as showing that this was the first non-reproductive interactions in Hawksbill. So it was 3 females and 1 juvenile that live in front of where Dawn lives. And so they're resident turtles there. And so we're showing that they're interacting and they're not doing it for mating or for breeding. So that was one of the first things. We showed that they also engaged in a complex array of social behaviors. So a lot of different behaviors were being demonstrated. And really this combined with a couple of other recent studies suggests that marine turtles might not be as solitary as previously believed. So again, we're just trying to kind of open up this line of research. And where I think that the BioOne video really helped is that within the article itself, we had these still images. So this is actually an image that was included in the article, so in the PDF or on the online version. But obviously these still images don't portray or don't really, elucidate the actual behavior that these turtles are going. So the first thing, A is this head touch behavior where they're touching one another's head, and you're like, okay, I don't really see it. But if we zero in on that and then we show the video, and that's what I'll do here, we can see that it's actually a much more interactive. It gives the viewer a much more tangible kind of view of this. And then you can see that not only this, but what we talk about in the article is that there's this gular pumping. So you can see the jaw of the turtle kind of going up and down, and that they might actually be exchanging kind of water flows with one another. And this could be triggering some olfactory senses. So they might be actually smelling one another. And so the video really helps kind of highlight that versus just having the still image in your article, or a link to a video, but that doesn't work half the time, right? So here I'm highlighting another behavior, the contest behavior. And again, the still image doesn't do a whole lot for it, but if you look at the video, it gives you a much better feel for kind of how these turtles are engaging and what they're doing. And so you see the larger turtle kind of going after the smaller one and being a bit aggressive. And so this was this contest behavior. You can see my videos are not labeled or anything or have any captions on them, but they're also very short. So I think that in this case, it actually did well. So another behavior is this pursuit behavior. And again, I can show you that still image. It's actually not a very good image. It's captured from the video itself. But when you actually see the video, it's nice because it allows you to, there's actually 3 turtles involved in this pursuit behavior. And so you can see how they're kind of one behind the other. And it's just it's this novel behavior, never been seen before in sea turtles. And it's really cool to be able to have that embedded in your actual article. As you're describing it, the viewers are able to directly watch that video. And the last one I'm going to show you is this bite behavior. It's another real quick clip here where you can see the turtle that bites the other turtle, right? So, okay, then you're seeing how the turtle reacts and that kind of thing. So for us, it was these embedded videos really just facilitate viewing rather than making the viewer leave the site and go to another site where then sometimes the video might not work, or you have the supplemental material or the video links at the very bottom of the PDF. This really facilitated the viewing. And then as the editorial team, this turtle drama was really more effectively illustrated when you're looking at the videos. And this really helped us garner more attention and excitement for the findings. And really, as researchers and scientists, that's our end goal, or one of our end goals is to communicate this over to the public as well, right? So we think that it's a really great tool that can grow. I was thinking about this when we're talking about this forum, is that all the different ways you could show techniques and really giving, we're very visual learners, so a lot of us are anyway. I know I am. And just being able to actually see something done, say, or a documentation of something makes it all that more tangible for everyone. So yep, that's all I had. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Alex, and especially for getting up incredibly early because you're over in Hawaii today. So I have a couple of quick questions for you, but before, I thought it'd probably be good, let's have a look at the article in context. So I'm going to try and share my screen. Okay, are you able to see the article, everyone?
Yep.
Wonderful. Okay. So once you're logged into your BioOne account, either through your institution or through the journal, when you navigate to a page, this is the video content that I was explaining, you'll see a little icon. And so one of the great things about this article is, as you read through, and as Alex was saying, it references in the video is directly embedded. So you don't have to jump back and forth. You can really see it as a narrative. So these are all the wonderful videos. And when you click on them, they play within the same context. And then if there were any captions, these will appear at the bottom. But this is a great example. The vast majority of the videos that we have on BioOne do not have any sound or any language on them. So, and then here we have this here. And one of the things Maggie is going to go over next is to show you the differences in how these things appear for PDF versus HTML. Just let me stop sharing. I'm going to pop up my slide real quick. So I thought it was, Alex, have you got a second real quick? And then I'll jump back on with some Q&A afterwards. You mentioned that it's a good opportunity for other researchers to build on this. Was this part of the intention when you put it together, or was this something that came out of when you shared it with the wider community?
No, that was actually the primary, one of the primary goals for actually putting this article together. Because like I said, it's not hardcore science, right? I mean, basically we took this video collection that Don had and we reviewed them, we categorized the behavior. And so for me, that's definitely not hardcore science, right? I think for most of us, but it was more like, wow, here it is. I mean, for me, it's a whole career that someone could pursue, is studying, sea turtle social behavior. And so that was the primary goal of this. And I think the videos just really send that message home a lot more, that versus someone just describing it and someone trying to imagine it in their head, being able to actually see it. And hopefully that will inspire, an individual or multiple individuals to really pursue this, because I think it's a whole line of research that's waiting exploitation, so to say.
Yeah, and I think, am I right in remembering that when you were promoting the article, you and the other authors were promoting the article, you did share some of the videos on social media as well?
Oh, definitely. Yeah.
Yeah, it's another great example of how to draw people in. Thank you so much. So please pop any questions that you have in the chat. And I'm following in the Q&A, and I'm following the chat in here too. And again, Debra, great point that a lot of this can be done on the phone, just like Aricia was saying. Okay, so I wanted to introduce Maggie, our last speaker, before we jump into the Q&A. Maggie is my other half here at BioOne on the publishing and operations side, and we wanted to introduce her with another video that we thought was very beautiful. The sound is very quiet, but this is an example of capturing a culture from the Journal of Ethnobiology. So I'm going to welcome my colleague, and she's going to walk through some of the differences, and then we'll be sharing with you the tech guide that we have prepared for everyone. Please do put all your questions either in the chat or the Q&A, and we will move on to that next.
Hello. As Carol mentioned, my name is Maggie Grasseschi, and I am here to talk with you about all the different ways that BioOne and our embedded video feature can help enhance and benefit your publications. So the first thing I wanted to do was sort of explain the difference between an embedded video and a supplemental video. The main difference, as you can see in the article that Carol very helpfully just pulled up, is that the embedded video will display within the text of the HTML article itself. And the other added benefit is that it will have the option for transcription if there's any spoken word audio. Like pieces of supplemental materials and content, it is available for download and it will receive its own DOI. For the supplemental DOIs that I mentioned, there are some benefits to it, like the standard DOI. It will link directly to your piece of content. It's a permanent link, it won't change. And once you put that URL into your browser, it's going to automatically start downloading that content for you. So this is going to make it easier to reference and cite and share amongst your colleagues. And here we have some examples of the differences of how the videos will display online versus how they'll display on the PDF. We saw this video at the very start, and here are some of Alex's wonderful videos. The cool thing about this one in particular, if we want to go back real fast, on the PDF, you can see, you can see the little lines, and that's where he's been mentioning them as part of the figure caption on the PDF. In the HTML, you can see that wherever he has mentioned the video will actually display even in the caption of the figure. And then these are some examples of what transcriptions look like when there's a spoken word audio component. So they will display underneath the video in the HTML text, and they have that black outline that will go and read along with you as the video is playing. That is the majority of my talk. We have more technical aspects for you that are available in our video submission guide, which will go over how to submit your video, all of the specs that you need, and how that interplay works.
Thank you so much, Maggie. So if our other speakers would like to join us on camera, now is our time for Q&A. And thank you so much for everyone for jumping into the chat and sharing things. If you have a question, please feel free to pop it in the chat or pop it in the Q&A. I have both of these open and you can ask any of our panelists. And yes, thank you so much for everyone. That's really wonderfully informative. So let me dive into Q&A a little bit. And you'll also see in the chat, I just shared the link over for the publisher resources that we put together for you. And this has a much more detailed breakdown of some of the technical specifications. So please feel free to send in any questions that you have. And we'll have there is an email on the handout, and there will also be an email at the end. So let's take a look at some of the questions. Let me pull up the Q&A. Okay, so this is a nice one. For any of the panelists, authors, editors, what was something that was perhaps the most challenging about putting these together? And can you give advice for how you overcame them? Don't be shy. So what was something particularly challenging, and what would be your tips to overcome it? I think we touched a little bit on this. Sorry, go ahead. Debra, was that you?
I was going to say Aricia, she actually did it. As I said, I didn't actually do this. I think, as I said, one of the biggest things that we discovered was the length of time, or how short a time you've got to grab people's attention. They might be willing to listen a bit more if you grab them at the beginning, but if you can't get them quickly, they're just going to switch off. And the importance of captioning, when I found that 85% of people will watch YouTube videos and stuff with the sound off, that does make you think about how important captioning is.
Yeah, I agree with Debra. I think the length of the video, it's like the key point on everything, and it's very hard for us sometimes cutting information out. Yeah. Like, we always think that everything is important, and in the end, like, what message do you want to portray? Like, that's the message, just stick with it. Like, don't go trying to explain the whole world to the people that it's not going to work, they're not going to absorb anything at all. So for me, it was kind of, okay, I need to cut this, I need to cut that, and I need to cut that, and I have to simplify this for people to understand. So I think for me, doing the layperson language was very difficult in the beginning, but now I started like, okay, how do I do that? Okay, I need to, Mom, come here. Do you understand this? No. Okay, so I need to rethink that. So that for me worked.
And I think that that kind of goes back to a lot of what Debra was highlighting about know your audience, and that you have to create almost two versions. So I think you touched on this as well, Aricia, about communicating to the wider a wider audience and conveying important science information. So when we're cutting things down, how would you approach that editing process for the wider scientific community, not necessarily your colleagues?
So I did a video for a conference that I went in Florida in August, and they decided to do, as it was a hybrid conference. So instead of like you recording yourself with your poster, they asked for video, and lots of people recorded itself with the poster. But I was like, okay, let's do a video. And then it was an opportunity to do that for people that are working with science. So I could use my terms. So how do I do that in a more approachable, like engaging way, but not losing the scientific value of things? So it was a little bit tricky, but I guess it's possible. Like, just as I said, it's a collaboration. Like, you can't do by yourself. If you wanted to engage with people, people have to see it and help you through the process. So I think talking with other colleagues or even like other people, it's important in that process of sharing things. So it's not just on your own, like it's a collaboration, or like in the end of things. And research as well is collaboration. So you just have to talk to people and see if it's working or not working at all.
Mm-hmm. Anyone else have any insights in terms of speaking to different audiences?
I'm just not, I didn't produce anything other than cut down my videos, so that's why I'm not speaking it.
But I think, as you said, Alex, keeping them short and sweet, and here's the example. We are very fortunate at BioOne that we have a publisher advisory group made up of other editors, and one of the things we were speaking about this morning is kind of the wealth of information that the societies have collected over the years of, you know, how a frog moves or different sounds, and documenting these behaviors, and these give a great jumping off point and can turn into, as you said, somebody's life's work. So they're all very valuable. Let me see what other questions.
I guess the one thing I would add, Carol, is that, you know, maybe our videos did it to the extreme, but it's really not wasting a lot of time on superfluous, you know, video that doesn't need to be there, and really just kind of getting in on that. Because if I'm going to read an article and I want to know about a behavior, or I want to know about something, I want that video just to show that and not have a lot of, you know, outside or, you know, wasted time, so to speak. And so I guess just following up on kind of what some of the others said and what you just said is just really get in there. Maybe not to the extreme that we did it, but yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, editing things right down. Go ahead, Debra.
And sometimes just thinking about simplifying the language, depending on who you're talking to. So I've back in 2000, I helped with the 20,000 oil penguins in South Africa at Treasure oil spill, and I've given 40-minute or an hour presentations about that to vet students at a vet school, or you know, 10 minutes at a conference. Or I've had my laptop with me in the pub or at a beer festival or whatever, and I've given an impromptu, oh yeah, this is what I did, and I've opened it up and I've shown them. And you know, you skip over some slides because it's too technical, or you have to think about how to quickly put it into lay terms and easier language. But if you can make it engaging and capture people with a couple of pictures of, you know, a hole full of pens of penguins, and you can really draw people in with some really good images, and then it's about being enthusiastic, but at the same time your vocabulary has to be appropriate for your audience.
Absolutely. So I think we started a couple of minutes late, so hopefully people will forgive me if we overrun a little bit. If anyone needs to disappear off, remember we will be uploading a copy of this afterwards, and you will get a follow-up email with all of that. I wanted to touch upon this idea a little bit more about communication. And one of the things we talked about in preparation for this forum was how important it is as a skill for researchers to be able to explain their research and to engage the audience in different ways. I think we've talked a lot about it, but what kind of excites you about the video piece, and is there any advice that you would give for researchers trying to think about how to communicate their work in a wider way?
I believe it's
I guess
very.
oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead. Go ahead.
Well, I guess I was kind of just going to reiterate some of the stuff I feel like maybe I already said, but the fact is that when we're as researchers, you're often very fascinated by what you're researching, and so I think being more mindful and cognizant of if you have a camera with you, whether it be your phone or something else, and really trying to document what it is, the research that you're involved in. I think we're moving to, we all do that naturally. We want to take photos and things like that. So with fear of making more people pull out a phone when they're actually doing stuff, that's actually being able to capture what we're seeing, and so that we can share it in some of these these online articles, I think is going to become more and more common. And so I think it's going to be important for researchers to always be cognizant of that and just have their cameras ready. And so we can document these things and share them.
Thank you.
I believe that, like, I don't know if it's a world thing, but in Brazil, especially, fake news are kind of huge. So, and in a lot of different subjects, not only but in politics, for example, like we're facing a dreadful election right now. So everyone is consuming videos all the time in WhatsApp, Instagram, Reels, YouTube. So for us, like, there's a lot of miscommunication about things and important subjects. For us as specialists, let's call us that way, it's our responsibility to go there and to share with people your vision of things on what you've learned through your research. And I believe we have to have this ability to communicate and to develop these skills in order to achieve the people out there and share with them what are we doing. I think it's our responsibility as scientists. So I think it's very important for us to understand that and just pop out our bubble. Like, we are not going to change the world by staying in our lab. So if you want to see the difference and like share what we are learning, we have to talk with people, and we have to just lay down and just sit down and, okay, it's video they're seeing now, so let's learn to do videos. If it's another platform, let's learn that platform as well. So we have to be more approachable, I guess. And videos are a fun way and engaging way of doing that. And it's out there. There's YouTube, Instagram. We have to just like learn how to do it, I guess.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. So we have over 100 videos up on BioOne right now, and we're hoping to get a lot more. And I hope everyone has been able to take something away from here and is just as excited as we are about video. Any closing comments from anybody? Wonderful. So hopefully everyone's been able to see the resources in the chat. And if you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to us. You can always find me at the publishing inbox, and I will be sure to pass on any questions that you might have for Maggie. That guide really breaks down how to connect things and hopefully takes a lot of the heavy lift out. And thank you so much to our panelists for joining us and for sharing and for contributing. It's really great to hear the voices of our very vibrant BioOne community. Thank you so much to everybody.